Hey, Jim Cinecropi here with another edition of What's Cooking on FingerLakes1.com. And on Friday night, I made chimichurri shrimp over Parmesan Polenta with some dandelion greens. And, shrimp over polenta, it's basically shrimp and grits. Polenta and grits are both cornmeal. And so I guess if you're in Italy, you'll call it polenta. If you're in the southeastern part of the United States, you'll call it grits. But either way, excited to do it. And always excited to use chimichurri sauce or to make chimichurri sauce. It's a pretty versatile thing that can be goes great with steak, obviously, but also a number of different stuff. So let's roll it, and I'll show you what we did here. There's the finished product, and I'll show you how I got there. Start by peeling the shrimp, and had some nice high quality jumbo shrimp. And I like to take the tails off. I mean, some people like to keep the tail on. I like to be able to just eat it without having to worry about, having those tails on my plate while I'm eating. So peeled the shrimp, set that aside, and now get to work on the chimichurri and some of the prep work. Got some garlic here. I use a lot of the garlic in the chimichurri. Also a little bit with the dandelion green. So just peeling the garlic, which is always, some people don't like it. I find it kind of therapeutic. So these were kind of small, but eventually got through them all. And then some fresh Italian parsley, and we're going to dice that up as fine as we can with a knife, because that's going to be the base of the chimichurri. And so we set that in the bowl where I'm going to put the chimichurri together. And then I use basil in my chimichurri as well. Some people just stick with the parsley, but I love sweet Italian basil, so we do the same thing with the basil. We chop it up nice and fine. And then we add that in with the parsley. See those red Fresno peppers? We're going to do the same thing. Going to dice those up into little bits to add a little color to the chimichurri, almost as much as flavor. This is for color. And now we're going to do the garlic next. And how much garlic you use is really up to you. I love garlic. And one thing with using garlic for chimichurri, you want to make sure you don't have too many large chunks. So now that's together, we prep some of the other vegetables that are going to go together with the dandelion greens. The red onion, although it's purple. I don't know why they call it red, because it's purple, but that bell pepper is red, and so we're going to julienne one bell pepper as well. And then there's the delicious dandelion greens. Very bitter, not for everyone, dandelion greens, but they're also free if you don't use herbicide in your backyard. You can always find some dandelion greens back there. So start sauteing the onions and add a little bit of fresh ground pepper and start those sauteing. And the reason behind these dandelion greens mixture is to give a contrast to the creamy polenta in addition to the shrimp. So I add a little salt and pepper to my chimichurri mix, and then some crushed red pepper, quite a bit. And then a little paprika. I might not always put paprika in my chimichurri, but because it's going on the shrimp, we throw a little paprika in there. Healthy dose of red wine vinegar. You could go just with a bunch of lime juice or even lemon juice, but I went with the red wine vinegar, and then a ton of extra virgin olive oil, and then mix it all up. And that is a nice chimichurri. That is a chimichurri that's essentially ready to go, although I will add a little bit of lime juice to it to finish it. And there we go. I actually end up squeezing about 4 of those lime halves into the mix, set it aside, and then eventually put it on this shrimp that I peeled, mix it up, and then I put it in the refrigerator while I continue cooking. It's a marinade, but don't need to leave it overnight or anything. Just about 15-20 minutes is good. So now I add a couple garlic cloves to the onions that are sauteing, and then these are some roasted tomatoes. I just got them pre-roasted from Wegmans because I'm not really making a spaghetti sauce here. And then there's our julienne red bell peppers, and we just let that cook down. A little sugar and cinnamon on top, which is something I like to do. Again, I'm looking to make something that really contrasts with the polenta here, because you're just going to eat shrimp and polenta. It's nice to have a different flavor, a third flavor in the mix. So heavily salt your water for the polenta, and then bring that to a boil. And then I have some white cornmeal. It's basically the same as yellow except for the color, so I figured this would look better with a little white base polenta. And then just slowly start to drizzle it into the water. Doesn't have to be rapidly boiling, just needs to be kind of at the boiling point, but it's important to whisk as you pour so that it doesn't clump up, and your arm might get a little tired, but after about 4 or 5 minutes you should be looking at something like this. See that bubbling? That's when I drop in a whole stick of butter and mix that in, and then some more fresh ground pepper going into the polenta. And whisk that, and it really starts to thicken up, which you want it thick, but obviously not too thick. So I think I hit the sweet spot here with this batch. And now that this has started to cook down, we're going to add a little bit of Riesling. Any white wine would work. This was a Hosmer semi-dry Riesling, and deglaze that pan and create like a tasty little sauce to cook the dandelion greens in, which will go in late because I don't want to cook them down too much. I still want them to be bright green, and like any green that you're sauteing, they take up a lot of space in the pan when you start, and then once they start to cook down, they shrink in size. So you can see here, just want to get it all mixed up there and make sure none of the dandelion leaves are sticking together so they can kind of cook evenly. But we're really close to the end here. Again, not going to let these things cook for more than 4 or 5 minutes. So now time to get ready for the shrimp. A little olive oil and a half a stick of butter. Grab that shrimp from the refrigerator and lay them all down. And the shrimp's only going to take literally 3 minutes to cook. And you can flip them by hand if you want, but generally I start them on one side and then I just will toss them. So now they're really, I mean, that's beautiful right there. That is some tasty action going on in that pan. Going to hit it with a little fresh lemon juice, which makes about anything better. And get it in there nice and tight, and look at that beautiful shrimp with the chimichurri. I don't want to cook it so much that the green chimichurri turns like a dark brown or really cooks. It won't take too long. So we just toss it around, and then back to the polenta, some Parmesan cheese, grate it right in, and then whisk it. And that's really going to finish off that polenta just right. You can use as much of the Parmesan as you want if you want it to be a really heavy cheese flavor. And as I mentioned, lemon juice makes everything a little better, so why not add the other half of that lemon to my dandelion greens, which are now ready to serve. So you can imagine you get a bite of the dandelion green, maybe a bell pepper or one of those roasted tomatoes with the creamy Parmesan polenta. It just is really a nice pair. Have some chives here just for some garnish. We're going to chop those up to put on the top. And then it's time to bring it to the plate. So there's the polenta. See how it's pretty thick, but still able to fill out the bottom of the bowl here that I'm serving this finished product in. I was really happy with how the polenta came out. And again, polenta, grits, call it what you want. You could call it shrimp and grits chimichurri, but we're going with polenta. Now I add a few pats of butter throughout the plate to create these little beautiful pools of melted butter within the polenta, just to make it a little more savory. And there go the dandelion greens right in the middle. Again, if you try to eat that polenta on its own, she's after 3 or 4 bites, you might be wishing there was something else to go with it. So that's where the dandelion greens and bell peppers and tomatoes come in. And then, of course, there's our perfectly cooked shrimp. Going to generously portion that on top of the dandelion greens and take this last few just to make it symmetrical. And you can see some of that butter already pulling up. I take some sweet chili sauce and just drizzle it over the top. And then those chives that I diced up to make it look pretty, but also to add a little bit of depth of flavor to as that gets mixed in with the polenta. And then a little bit of the chimichurri sauce over the top of the shrimp, so we got some fresh chimichurri on top, and there you have it. And I gotta tell you, I really enjoyed eating this one. Pretty easy once you get the prep work done. Comes together quick, delicious chimichurri shrimp over Parmesan Polenta with some dandelion greens. So hope you enjoyed it. Love to hear what you think. Please subscribe to our channel. Give me your thoughts. Let me know if there's something particular you'd like to see us cook on this segment, and have fun in the kitchen.